tell us that mainstream thinking is dangerous liberal thinking. That the overwhelming majority of the American people are dangerous. Claire in Largo. Hi, Claire. Which dangerous liberal philosophies or policies did you want to warn us about?
Well, I'd like to warn people about the dangerous liberal thinking of having an idiot liberal like you on the radio.
Give me a specific
not letting
liberal
anybody
policy.
Talk
Claire,
and talking over everybody.
Claire, give me
you
a specific dangerous liberal
Your
policy.
Your type of radio went out with Joe Pine.
No,
Call
Claire.
it.
No, Claire. My type
and
of radio is
for a guy
in.
who's begging for calls, cool it.
No, I'm not begging for calls, Claire. You're just another one. Another one. Aren't you bushy people ashamed of yourself?
Yeah, well, I think if you're going to talk about what's frightening the conservatives, you have to get into more of the liberal philosophy, not the
Claire,
politics.
which dangerous liberal policies did you want to warn us about?
Okay, you go back through history and you see the direction the liberals have been going.
Claire, which specific dangerous liberal policies? Claire, I'm going to ask for the third and final time.
If you don't have the background, you won't understand it.
I didn't ask for background, Claire. I asked for which dangerous liberal policies that George doesn't have the time to warn us about.
Freeing the slaves, you get to...
We'll go to Chad in St. Petersburg. Perhaps he can understand the question. Chad in St. Petersburg, which dangerous liberal policies did you want to warn us about?
Well, Bob, some damn liberals they let on the radio.
John in Clearwater, which dangerous liberal policies did you want to warn us about?
Hello, Bob.
Hi, John.
I was driving down the road and I got so fired up I had to stop and...
Great.
Listen, you were arguing with one of your callers about deregulation, okay?
No, I wasn't arguing with him about deregulation at all.
Well, you asked him, he said something like, I'll make it easier on you. Which conservative program do you like the most? And he said deregulation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I would just like to mention to him that deregulation has brought us...
John, which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about?
Well, I'm a liberal, so...
Thank you very much, John. Bob in a car phone. Bob, you're on the air, WFLA. Oh, you're kidding. You dropped off already? Aw, sucker. Bob in Lakeland. Bob, you're on the air, WFLA.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes.
Which dangerous liberal policies did you want to warn us about, Bob?
Well, there's just one thing I got to say before you hang up on me.
Which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about, Bob?
If you would let your faithful listeners...
Which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about, Bob?
One of them is people like you that won't let...
Obviously, Bob doesn't have any dangerous liberal policies that he wanted to warn us about. George in Clearwater. George, which one did you want to warn us about?
Well, I think the main policy that everyone should really be very much concerned about, and that's education.
Oh? Liberals are in favor of education. Is that dangerous?
I'll tell you, my perception, correctly or incorrectly, is that the powerful, I believe it's the Northeast...
Which dangerous liberal policy, get right down to specifics, did you want to warn us about?
What I'm getting to, Bob, is that I think that people have to have...
Which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about specifically and now?
Well, I'm trying to say that, if you would,
well,
please.
Get to it now.
I am for the tuition tax credit.
Oh, I see. So public schools are a dangerous liberal policy.
No, I think that something has to be done other than it's being espoused by the liberals.
So keeping a public school system in this country alive is a dangerous liberal policy, but dismantling the public school system is a good conservative policy.
I didn't say to dismantle the public school system.
I know that's not what you said, but that is the purpose of a tuition voucher.
Thank you for allowing me to say what I wanted to say.
Thank you for telling us that the public school system is a dangerous liberal idea. David in Tampa, you're on the air, WFLA.
Yes. I would like to know...
which dangerous liberal policy, David, did you want to warn us about?
About where they would want to call a convention and revise the United States Constitution as to the Bill of Rights.
I beg your pardon, David. That is a conservative cause and one that Ronald Reagan supports. It is not a liberal cause, David. It is a conservative cause.
Okay, then.
Brother. 990-9352 in Hillsborough. 461-9352 in Pinellas to warn us about dangerous liberal policies. And I'll wait. Because like I said, sometimes silence is golden, isn't it? Jim in a car phone. Jim, you're on the air, WFLA. Which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about?
Two of them that concern me is one is the national health insurance project.
That's not liberal. That's mainstream thinking, Jim.
Well, I don't know if that's mainstream.
Well, I don't care what you know. I'm telling you as a fact that's what most Americans want.
And the second item is Dukakis' proposal on trade bills.
That is mainstream thinking as well, Jim. That is what most Americans want. Now tell me about dangerous liberal policies, not mainstream thinking.
Why was the protectionist measures in Congress proposed?
I'm asking you for the last time to tell me about a dangerous liberal policy, not mainstream thinking.
Well, I'm sorry. You don't want to debate the issue.
Debate what issue? What is a dangerous liberal policy?
Those are two things that
They are not liberal policies, Jim. That is mainstream thinking.
That's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion, Jim. It's a fact of life.
All right, you don't want to debate the topic at hand.
What do you mean I don't want to debate the topic at hand? You can't answer the question. Give me a dangerous liberal policy, not mainstream thinking.
I've indicated two things that are not mainstream policy.
Well, Jim, as a matter of fact, am I a liberal? I'm against both. But that's besides the point, Jim. It is mainstream thinking.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Whose measure?
By the measure, that's what the majority of people want. That's what makes it mainstream thinking, Jim.
All right, well, then let me ask you a question, Mr. Lassiter. Is that when the trade bill came up in Congress regarding...
Jim, I just told you I am against trade restrictions and I am against national health care.
Well, now, is that not a liberal cause on the...
No, it is not a liberal cause, Jim. It's what most Americans want.
The protectionist issues?
Yes, Jim.
Why was it voted down by Congress and proposed by liberal Democratic senators and congressmen?
Jim, it was not voted down by Congress. It was passed by Congress and vetoed by the president.
No.
Yes, Jim.
Look, if you look at the original proposal that went through the bill was modified and was resubmitted at a later hearing. And that's what you end up with today, the present trade bill.
Jim, the trade bill was vetoed, and the veto was not overridden. A vast majority of Congress passed it, but not the Senate.
Not in its original form, sir.
Well, there is no trade bill right now, Jim.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, even if there was, it's what the American people want.
Well, they're not...
The American people want retaliatory tariffs, Jim. That's what the American people want. That's not liberal thinking, Jim. It's mainstream thinking.
Well, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you for yours, Jim. Mark in Tampa. Mark, you're on the air, WFLA. Which dangerous liberal policy did you want to inform us about?
Well, I was just curious as far as the gradual elimination of the basic principles, religious principles that this country is founded on.
Oh, Jim, give me a break. I want a specific, Jim. Give me a specific liberal policy.
Huh?
Give me a specific liberal policy.
Specific liberal policy?
Yes, a dangerous specific liberal policy.
Elimination of prayer from schools. Is that not a specific liberal policy?
First of all, it was the Warren Court that did that back in the 1960s, Mark. Secondly, only 15% of this nation's classrooms had mandatory Bible reading at the beginning of the day at the time that the Supreme Court passed.
Okay.
Or passed on that particular question.
Okay.
Secondly, Mark, it is only a handful of religious fundamentalists who want Bible reading in school.
Has it ever
Again,
been
the average the average American is very leery of that fundamentalist.
Has the average American ever been given an opportunity to vote on it?
We are not that kind of a nation, Mark. Are we?
Allowed to vote on?
No, Mark, there is utterly no provision whatsoever in the Constitution for that, is there? Is there, Mark?
As far as...
Mark, there is utterly no provision whatsoever in the Constitution for a nationwide question like that on the ballot, is there, Mark?
Oh, you mean
is there, Mark?
Enough people.
Is there, Mark? Is there, Mark? There is no provision in the Constitution for that, is there, Mark?
You mean to tell me...
Is there, Mark? Yes or no?
Wait a minute.
Yes or no?
If the marijuana...
Get off my phone, you miserable pig. There isn't. And to imply that the reason there hasn't been a nationwide plebiscite is because of the liberals blocking it is bull. Isn't it, Mark?
Bob, how you doing?
Fine. Which dangerous liberal policies did you want to warn us about?
Okay, from the liberal standpoint, I would think that the conservative would not want immigration from third
Bob,
world.
which dangerous liberal policy did you want us to be informed about?
I'm trying to answer. Immigration from third world countries.
Immigration from third world countries, Bob, is not a liberal policy.
Well, I would think that the conservative...
Is it, Bob?
I would think that...
Is it, Bob? I guess that means no, it isn't. I was wrong. Please forgive me. George in a car phone. George, you're on the air, WFLA.
Yeah, Bob.
Which dangerous policy do you want to warn us about, George?
Well, I feel that military spending, and I disagree with you because I think Carter was defeated. And
George, I straightened out the guy in the last hour. I'll straighten you out. The overwhelming majority of the American people...
I disagree with you, Bob.
Well, I don't care if you disagree with me, George. The overwhelming majority of the American people want the defense budget cut.
How did Reagan get in?
I don't know how he got in, George.
I know how he got in.
But I'm telling you that the overwhelming majority of American people want the defense budget cut, and that's a fact of life.
No, that's only your opinion.
It's not my opinion, you miserable jerk. I will not listen to lies. Just because you want it to be true doesn't make it true. The average American, the vast majority of Americans, do not want to spend $300 billion a year on defense. Period. And I don't care how much you don't want it to be true, that doesn't change it. That's mainstream thinking, not liberal thinking. Ed in Largo. Ed, you're on the air, WFLA.
Got right on. Okay, the thing that I'd like to discuss with you, and I know you had a couple
which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about, Ed?
Is the national health care, again...
National health care is not a liberal policy, Ed. It is what most Americans want.
Okay, I know that. I know what you said.
So now tell me which dangerous liberal policy we should be aware of.
Socialized medicine as opposed to...
There is no one offering himself for office calling for socialized medicine, including Edward Kennedy. Is there?
No, you're right.
Thank you. So I guess it's not a dangerous liberal policy. Alan and Holiday. Alan, you're on the air, WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
I'm going to try to put into words what a lot of these people have been saying to you.
Which dangerous, specific liberal policy did you want to warn us about, Alan?
It is the redistributionist policies of the liberals.
Which liberal wants to redistribute the wealth?
Well, the policies of the liberal thing.
Which liberal wants to redistribute the wealth, Alan?
Well, FDR started it. Woodrow
Alan,
had a hand in it.
FDR was a very wealthy man and got wealthier as he went along. Which liberal running today wants to redistribute the wealth, Alan?
Dukakis.
Oh?
Yes.
Now name a specific policy that he has directed at redistributing the wealth.
Okay. Food stamps, welfare.
Food stamps are not a redistribution of the wealth, Alan.
Yes,
and on top of that, the overwhelming majority of Americans are in favor of those programs.
Bob, most of those policies...
They are in favor of those programs. They are mainstream programs. They are not liberal programs.
Are not aimed at the poor.
They are
aimed at the middle class.
Food stamps and welfare are not aimed at the middle class, Alan. Get off my phone. You're also another jerk that doesn't know what in the hell he's talking about. Frank in Palm Harbor. Hi there, Frank in Palm Harbor. Which dangerous liberal policy did you want to inform us about?
I want to say in general, a lot of these programs with the Congress want to pass.
Frank, which specific dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about?
I just want you to put you straight on mainstream.
Frank, which dangerous liberal policy did you want to warn us about?
I say all government spending.
All government spending is a dangerous liberal policy. I see, Frank. We're still waiting for dangerous liberal policies to be brought to our attention. I'll make it easier for you. Tell you what, I'll make it easier for you. I sat down this morning and jotted down a couple of things that, maybe you consider to be dangerous liberal policies. And then I jotted down a couple of things that are right-wing policies from the past. Left-wing policies, right-wing policies, okay? From the left-wing side, Social Security. Let's start with Social Security. Now, whether or not the Social Security system is sound is neither here nor there. It ought to be. And both liberals and conservatives certainly agree on that, don't we all? But the concept of Social Security is a liberal left-wing policy. Then there's unemployment insurance, another liberal left-wing policy. Have you ever collected unemployment insurance? Are you collecting Social Security now? Are you going to send it back? I don't think so, are you? Well, let's move on to Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, another dangerous, I guess, left-wing liberal policy. It's of particular interest to those of you who are wealthy conservatives and keep your money in the bank, isn't it? How about vacations? Ah, yes, I'm sorry, my friends, but vacations are a left-wing liberal concept because vacations came about with the organized labor movement, unions that those left-wing liberals support, as well as sick days, health insurance, Christmas off, 8-day or 8-hour work day, 5-day work week. That's a dangerous liberal policy, I guess. Are you opposed to that one? How about VA and FHA insured mortgages? Another dangerous liberal policy where people who don't even own homes subsidize those of you who have VA and HFA mortgages. How about OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Act? Are you opposed to that? Are you opposed to safe working conditions? How about steady food prices? Ah, there's another dangerous liberal policy. Yes, steady food prices. If we didn't have the agricultural programs that we have, where we didn't buy surpluses in years of abundance, hold those surpluses, and then release them into the market in years of small crops, food prices would vacillate wildly. But they don't, because of that dangerous liberal policy that you enjoy. How about school taxes? School taxes? Yes. A dangerous liberal policy. Your school taxes here are lower than they would otherwise be because everyone in the country helps subsidize Pinellas and Hillsborough County schools through federal grants. So your school taxes are lower. You have more money to spend on your National Rifle Association membership. How about the Security and Exchange Commission? Another dangerous liberal policy where the liberals, the left-wing liberals, thought it was just not fair that you rich conservatives should be ripped off by unscrupulous stockbrokers. How about the antitrust laws? A dangerous liberal policy. Well, they're almost out the window now under the conservative administration. So that Canadian real estate developers can buy and sell department stores and put Americans out of business for no good reason whatsoever. How about flood insurance? Yeah, sitting down there in your waterside condo or house, shaking your cane at the radio. Federal flood insurance, subsidized by people who live in the ghetto in Newark, New Jersey, so that you can afford flood insurance. Another dangerous liberal policy, huh? How about the National Labor Relations Board? Yeah, the National Labor Relations Board, another dangerous left-wing liberal idea. It is an organization that keeps your employer from treating you unfairly. How about the FCC? Whoa, there's one for you. The Federal Communications Commission, another dangerous liberal left-wing idea. By the way, if it wasn't for the conservatives, I couldn't say half the words I say. The liberals thought that I shouldn't use them. How about the Federal Aviation Administration? Another dangerous liberal idea. Remember when you could actually get a flight from Tampa, Florida to Utica, New York? You can't anymore. And to a lot of other towns. But under that dangerous left-wing liberal FAA, airlines had to service every community if they wanted to service the big ones. How about the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration? You don't have to sweat. You don't have to sweat going to the store and buying something that's going to be harmful to you because of an unscrupulous businessman. Because of that dangerous left-wing liberal policy. Is that one you'd like to get rid of? How about disability insurance? Yeah, for when through no fault of your own you become disabled and can't work. Another dangerous left-wing liberal idea, huh? How about college loans and grants? I wonder how many of you conservatives went to school with a college loan or grant, conceived and put into practice by dangerous left-wing liberals. How about the GI Bill of Rights? How many of you bought homes, started businesses, or went through school because of a left-wing liberal Congress and a left-wing liberal administration that put through the GI Bill of Rights? How about the Veterans Administration? Another left-wing liberal idea, huh? How about NASA? A left-wing liberal idea? Going to the moon was a left-wing liberal idea, I guess. How about voting rights and civil rights? Would you tell me that you're not in favor of every American citizen having the right to vote? Well, it was a left-wing liberal idea, wasn't it? How about being thrown out of your job because you're a Presbyterian?